What's up, YouTube? I wanted to come in and do a video today and just talk about what my path for learning web development will be for 2018. And I want to start with the minor things I want to learn. And these are going to be things that I will be learning as alongside the major things that I'm going to be learning. And some of these minor things include I want to get better with the terminal or the command panel, command prompt, whatever you want to call it. I have a little bit of an understanding of this. I've used it most on Linux, and that was mainly to install stuff. I've also used it some on Mac OS X. I haven't used it too much in Windows except to install some stuff as well. I've used it on Windows to create USB bootable drives, but that's not something that's really practical for what we would be doing as web development, but at least it gives you an example of kind of what the terminal is like. So I want to get better with that. Out of the three, I would say, personally speaking, my favorite was the terminal on Mac. I liked using it the best. One of the other things that I want to learn that's a minor thing is I want to get better with Git and pushing and pulling from repositories. I want to be able to do it through the web interface, and I want to be able to do it from the desktop apps. But most importantly, I want to be able to do it from the terminal. So those two things are kind of coinciding. I also want to learn and get familiar with Webpack and Babel. And mainly just to kind of package all my files together with the Webpack, and then and obviously, well, in case you don't know, Babel for when I'm using JavaScript. I also actually want to learn at least the basics to get stuff up and running on WordPress, and that's going to require me learning some PHP, at least a little bit between like the end of the basics to the beginning of the intermediary of PHP is what I would guess. And PHP is not something I personally want to use or to learn. But with that said, I want all of you new developers in training, programmers in training, coders in training, whatever you want to call yourselves. This is just some advice. If we're going to be developers, we need to be developers because we love to create content, be it websites or apps or whatever. But that's what we love to do, and we enjoy doing it. You like that sense of pride of saying, hey, I built that. That's the main reason why you need to do this. A secondary reason is going to be the money. We're not doing it just so, because we like it as a hobby. Though some people may be, but the majority of people that's in the development YouTube community and that follow all the big name programmers on YouTube, just about everyone's doing it to try to get a job, make some money. That shouldn't be your primary reason. Your primary reason should be that you love it. And I would say that if you don't love it, find out what you do love and do that. Anything that you love to do, you can find a way to get paid to do it. So do what you love. And if that does happen to be coding, then, this next piece of advice is for you. There are going to be technologies and there are going to be things that you're not going to like, you might not want to learn, but they're in your best interest to learn. And PHP is one of those things. I really don't care to learn it. I don't like it. I would much rather use other stuff on backend. When I get to doing backend stuff, that's my personal preference. Is it wrong to use PHP? Absolutely not. And actually, it's very wise to learn, because the thing is, most older websites and even most current websites, anytime you go work at a company and you're working with legacy code from other people, PHP. You're working on a website that's been around since before a lot of these newer backend technologies were around. PHP. So PHP might not be what you want, but PHP is going to get you a job. Even if you don't want to go work for a major company, there's always going to be someone that will says, hey, well, I want you to make me a website, but I want it on WordPress. PHP. So, understand, there's things in life you're going to have to do stuff where you don't want to. You might land a job, and then they might say, hey, I know that you know React, but, or that you were learning React, and right now you just know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you've been working on React, but we use Angular. We'll give you the job if you learn Angular, but you may not want to learn Angular. Now, the thing is, do you continue learning React? Absolutely. But if you want that job and you need that job to make that money right then, you might want to suck it up and learn Angular. There's things where you're going to have those choices, and, those situations occur. So be ready for those things. I mean, I know my route of what I want to learn personally and where I want to go with it and why. And I'm about to get into that with you guys. But if I get a development job on the front end somewhere because I know HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript, and they tell me they want me to learn Vue or Angular or React or just whatever framework that they want because that's what they use there, and they're offering me like $60,000 or $45,000 or just whatever. I mean, crap, where I'm at right now, I'd be happy with like $30,000 just as an entry job, based on what I know right now, because I know that I don't know enough to make those big bucks. But say someone was going to throw that kind of money at me, you best believe I'm going to learn some Angular or whatever the heck that they want me to learn for that framework. Or if they're like, hey, we'll hire you as a front end, but what we want you to do is eventually become full stack and probably work mostly on the back end, and say they use PHP or they use, just whatever, I would say, okay, I'll learn that and do that for, if you're going to throw that money in my pockets, you're paying me money to do a job that I should be able to do if I'm taking the job, or if you want me to gain more skills to add more responsibilities as I work there over time, like say, hey, you're going to be front end for 3 months, and then after that, during that time, we want you also learning back end, and then we want to put you over in back end. If they're putting their money, they're paying me to do a job the way that they want it done. So if you don't want to do it the way that they want you to do it, don't take their money. Go somewhere else where you don't have to do that. But knowing that even an entry-level web development job is going to put way more money in my pockets than what I'm currently making, absolutely, you best believe I'll absolutely learn, whatever you want me to learn. I'll learn a Sailor Moon JS framework, or whatever. I'll do it because I want to improve my quality of life. So, that's something you got to think about. But with my plan of where I want to head and what I want to go, this is based off of what I feel makes the most logical sense and benefits me in my growth as a developer and on what I want to do. So what I'm actually doing right now is, as you guys might know, I've just came back from like a 4 or 5 months hiatus of not coding. And I kind of screwed myself with that. I had got this new job that I have now. I had kind of wanted to focus on that. You guys know the whole story. You can watch it in my previous video. All that stuff is talked about there. But looking back now, I had went through HTML. I'd went through CSS. I'd went through a little bit of Bootstrap, and when I left, I got online on YouTube, did some tutorials, made a little bit of projects and stuff. But at that point in time, I still haven't had made a complete website, and let alone my own portfolio site. So there were things that I was lacking in CSS that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know floats, and I was having trouble positioning stuff, even though I knew how to, put all these cool background colors in, and I could, I could do like parallax backgrounds to where as the page scrolled, the background image didn't scroll. I could do cool stuff like that, but I couldn't even position a nav bar or anything. I hadn't even made a nav bar, but as I went through, I was like, okay, I'm going to make this nav bar. It's not too difficult. Oh, well, how am I going to position it, get it where I wanted, and all that stuff? I didn't know more of the basic fundamental things that I needed to know. And what had happened is when I initially came back, I thought I was good with, I basically remembered all the stuff that I had did with CSS. And I was like, well, I feel like I'm good, not knowing, because I also didn't have anyone there to tell me or to like really have talked to express what I did know, for them to tell me, well, you don't know this and that stuff you need to know. But when I came back, after talking to some people, I just jumped into JavaScript, and I like JavaScript. I'm actually, the course I'm taking on JavaScript, and I've got a couple, is I've got Brad Traversy's Udemy course on JavaScript, and I absolutely love it. He goes through, teaches you what the different things are, and then how to do it. But then he teaches you the why of why you would want to do this, why you would use loops, why you would use arrays, why you would use all this stuff, variables. Once you find out what a variable is a little bit kind of self-evident as to why you would use it. So, but I mean, like, on like the bigger things, he goes through and explains the why. So I love that. So where I'm at now is I'm going back to CSS. And personally, I'm probably going to spend a month just going hard in CSS, because I feel that after I go through and I get all that knowledge and all the missing things in CSS that I didn't know I was missing, and basically, which to me is some positioning skills and some of the layout skills, like using grid and stuff, practicing with floats a little bit more. I just learned really what floats were last night. Like, I didn't even know that was something I was missing, but whatever. It happens. I am not a seasoned developer. I am a guy starting at the beginning, just like many of you, and I'm learning as I go. So luckily, Um, through the online community, I've made a couple friends, and I would even call one of these friends my mentor. He's someone that I have to talk about things, not necessarily just coding. Um, you know, we've been cool enough that our friendship exists beyond just coding as well. So, that's really cool. But um, he's been doing this for a couple years, and, he's like, look, when I was learning, I wasted so much time on stuff. He's like, this is what you need. You need to go back and you need to say, hey, even if it's a crappy template of a website, you need to be able to create a full uh, website with all the basics. You need to know how to put your links in there. You need to know how to do a nav bar. You need to know how to do basic stuff like how people can contact you. Put that stuff in there. Once you can get um, a website that's a fully functional website, regardless of how ugly it looks, then then you move on to something else, because I can do a couple of pretty cool things with CSS. I learned more flashier things in CSS than really focusing on the basics, and that's really nobody's fault but my own. Um, I kind of got seduced into going into tutorial heaven and just falling through doing these little projects, because I was like, I want to have something to show for what I'm doing, and I don't want it to be trash. So, yeah, there's another red flag. Don't get stuck in tutorial heaven. Um, I would say look at other websites. And I've heard people say this. I've heard Joe at Coding Phase say it. I've heard Real Tough Candy say it. I've heard so many people say it. They've all said, go online, look at some templates, or look at websites in something that you like, and you feel inspired that you would want to create something like that, and then try to recreate it yourself. That's what I should have been doing, and I got stuck in these little tutorials wanting to do cool things, and now I've set myself back. So that's why I'm going back into CSS. But from there, I'm going to go back into JavaScript. And one beneficial thing I would say from where I'd already started learning, and I might JavaScript is on the back burner right now, but I'm probably still maybe going to spend an hour or two a week working with it, or at least continually implementing what I do know as I'm doing other stuff. Because if you already know how to do something, and there's no reason you shouldn't implement it into your website, if your website or whatever project you're working on would benefit from it. Like, if you know how to do forms, and you can create a little form where they can fill out, leave their email address, and where you can collect it for like a newsletter or whatever, and then they can leave you a comment or send you a personal mail through the website, and you're creating a project that would benefit from that, and that uses other cool stuff. Why not put that in there? Why leave that out just for the sake of time? Because what's going to happen if you add that in over time, you're going to get faster and faster and faster at doing it, and ultimately, if you built it once, for the most part, you can just copy and paste that in to your code in the future. But what I would recommend is that the first like 25 times you build a little project site just to throw in your portfolio. Don't copy and paste it, write it out. It's going to cement those skills. So, for that reason, I'm still going to implement that stuff in. And like I said, I'll probably spend an hour or two a week on JavaScript, because you don't want to get burnout either of just studying the same thing and just feeling like you're doing the same thing. Will it take me this whole month to get my CSS game up to where I need it to be? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't. But I'm in my mind acknowledging that I'm going to do at least a month of CSS, and I'm prepared to do that. And I'm also prepared myself that if I feel I need to go even longer with it, I will. Then once I get there, I'll start going back in the JavaScript and learning all the cool stuff I can. And once I've got to where I can just look at a website and be like, okay, I want to position this here on the left side, right side, top, center, just wherever, and I can do all the layouts. And regardless of how the website looks aesthetically, again, I'm going to stress, if you're new, do not get caught up in trying to make everything look aesthetically beautiful. Make it functional first. Once you get the functionality down, then work on making it beautiful. Little projects that you do where it's functional or whatever, you don't ever have to show those to anybody. You can hide them and pretend like you've never even done them, and they are, the skeletons in your closet if you want. Me, I'm going to show those things because I want to see. I want people to see my progress of how crap I was when I started to, dang, you can make some really beautiful things. And I was like, well, I want to make beautiful things from the get-go, and that kind of screwed me over. So don't waste your time. Do not do what I did. Functionality, then aesthetics. But once I get back into doing JavaScript, I'm applying all day for front-end jobs, and hopefully I get one. I've found about 3 companies that I did research into that's hiring here near me where I'm at. They're up in Indianapolis, and especially there's one in particularly that I absolutely want to work for, and it's considered probably one of the best jobs to have up in Indianapolis, as far as not even like pay and stuff, but from what I've seen that they do pay well, but just everyone that works there loves working there, that they have a good work culture. And just for that alone, I would probably go work there as a janitor just to have my foot in the door in a company while I'm still learning this. And then being that I already worked there, I'd be like, hey, I would like to, try to get on the development team. I can do this, and that, Sometimes you might want to try to take a job if you really want to work for a company that does development, and you have your heart set. And maybe sometimes in the meantime, while you're learning, you might want to do that to get your foot in the door. But after I get done doing some courses on JavaScript, I have the Traversy course I'm doing. I also have Stephen Grider's ES6 course that I have. Then what my plan is I personally want to, for when I start learning frameworks, I want to learn React. And just looking between, talking to people that use it, and I guess you'd say the big 3 are Angular, React, and Vue. And I just from doing my personal research, for me, I feel that Angular is a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. Not to be that it's not good and it doesn't do great what it sets out to do, because it does, but where I'm at, and like kind of I'm wanting to get as far into this year as I can. And so with me wanting, I want to have the basics of full stack down before the end of the year if I can. And I think that that's a reasonable goal, to where, and I'm not saying that I can't know how to do something on the back end and just little minor stuff way before it, because you can. And I'm not saying necessarily within a whole year I'm going to be like past an intermediate stage and all of that either, but I want to know that I successively understand and able to implement and utilize the basics of what I need for all of it, to basically do basic level websites completely on my own, without having to constantly look up stuff. And you're always there is always going to be stuff that you have to look up, but the fundamentals, the foundation of each of those parts, I want to have that good, solid, and just concrete. I want it to be a part of my essence and part of my being before the end of the year. And I think that that's reasonable. And then next year is, talk about 5-year plans and stuff. I'm not going to go into a 5-year plan, but next year, if I reach my goal of learning all of this, next year is going to be learning other things that I want to learn, because there's something where I really want to learn and use that, but I'm choosing not to go that path because it doesn't make that much sense to me, and you guys might see why in a minute. But as I learn React, I'm going to learn some Redux with it, and then once I get done with that, I'm going to learn Node.js on the back end. I mentioned earlier I don't like PHP. Actually working with PHP, and as I learn it, when I go through to do stuff in WordPress, maybe I'll find out I like it more than I don't. But from to me and what I do know and I see, it looks like it's a little dry. And people say that it's dry, but you also can't always take everybody's word for everything, because everybody's different. But it's not something that I want to go with. What I really want to go with is Python. My first array into coding was using Python, and I absolutely loved it. I loved writing stuff in Python, and by the end of my first day, I had learned how to do if and then statements, and I was able to have created a little game where I said, basically it would ask you a question. You give it an answer, and either it would retain some of the information like your name and stuff, and or it would ask you a question about stuff, and depending on how you answered it, the follow-up questions were different. And then you would just keep going back and forth with your answers, and it would basically reply to you. And it was really just a bunch of if and then statements mostly. And I did that like my first day And I'm not counting that as like a literal day, but that was within my first 24-hour period of doing anything with Python. And like this was maybe a course of over 3 actual days. It was over a weekend. Um, I just read a little bit of Python, went through and stuff, and I really like the language. I enjoy it. You can use Python on the back end. I would love to do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use Node. And the reason being is I want to use JavaScript wherever I can. And then even one step above that, anywhere I can use vanilla JavaScript, that's what I want to do. And I know that there's going to be times, because of time constraints and deadlines and stuff like that, especially like if you're working in a company and you're still learning something like React or Angular or whatever, where you're just going to use the frameworks. But I want to make it a goal of mine that I don't use a framework to do something unless I know how to do it in vanilla JavaScript, because I want to have that level of understanding and knowledge of mastering JavaScript. And and there's going to be times where you're going to do stuff in frameworks where you don't know how to do it, but those are things that I'm going to personally take upon myself, that when I do get myself in those situations, because I know that I will, that I'm going to make notes of that stuff, and then I'm going to go back and learn that on my free time on how to do that stuff. And it doesn't make logical sense that if you're learning vanilla JavaScript like really hardcore and in depth, why would you use another language anywhere else where you could use JavaScript? Because it's something that you already know, and it's something that you will be able to do great because you've used it so much that it makes more logical sense to me personally, and in my philosophical outlook on development, that you would use that everywhere. So when I get into 2019 next year, definitely going to learn all kinds of Python stuff because I love Python. But I'm going to go into, like I said, on the back end, I'm doing node.js. And I'll probably learn some Next.js along with it. And then from there, really, once I get like the basics of those things, and hopefully by the time I get to where I'm learning any back-end stuff, hopefully I have a front-end development job by that point in time. That's part of the goal. But once I get to where I'm learning Node and I've got the basic foundations of that down, I'm going to go back in to everything I know how to do in React and stuff like that, all like the shortcuts with all the frameworks and the libraries and all that cool stuff. I'm going to learn how to just go ahead and do it in vanilla JavaScript, code it out myself, and just go to that next level. From what I've done with JavaScript so far, I think that that might be what I would probably consider my specialty. That might be what I want to do. I like the way it does stuff and interacts with everything, and that's me. You know, you might find something else that you like and you enjoy more. And that's saying that based on what I'm learning now, I probably like JavaScript the most. But I probably do like Python even better than JavaScript. And Python can do a whole bunch of cool things outside of web development and doing other stuff. So I know that maybe in the future, if I ever get to where I get tired of doing web development, there's other things you can do in coding. You know, maybe I want to create just some apps or some type of software or something. So, you know, you have a basic understanding of how a programming language works and you've learned one very well, it makes a transition into learning another one just that much easier. So there's always someplace else you can go with it. what I eventually want to do during this time frame as well, once I get to where I've probably mastered my CSS to get basic stuff done, I'm going to go back into the aesthetically pleasing aspects of CSS and how to make things beautiful and flashy. And a lot of that flashy stuff also comes with learning JavaScript as well, and implementing that. But once I get those basic things down, I'm going to start trying to freelance. Not even going to lie. I'm going to get on Fiverr. I'm going to get on Upwork. And I'm just going to, build my tiers of my service. And like, look, I'll do you a 3-page website. I'll do you a landing page if all you want's a landing page for like this. I'll do you a 3-page basic website for this, a 5-page for this. I'll do you a 5-page with a store for this, and just put myself out there, and hopefully, I can start making that money. And not because I don't want to work at a company, because I do. I want to get out there and I make those big bucks. But having worked for myself before as an individual contractor, there's nothing like working for yourself. So, it might be possible in the future. I was talking about specialities, and I think that mine's probably going to be in JavaScript somewhere, doing something with that. Everyone's going to have something that they love and that they special in different things. I might either eventually end game after, I've put in a few years and I've put my work in at some companies and really solidified myself as a developer. I might want to go freelance full time. I might want to, having networked and meet people, I might find, if I decide that, I prefer front end a little bit more and I don't like doing back end too much, I'll find someone that I know that's good and really likes the back end, and that's their specialty. And I'll find someone that had, for every key part of the web development process, I'll try to find someone that, I know and like and trust and stuff, that fulfills all those little caveats. And maybe I might try to start my web development firm. You never know. But my end goal for me, what I want out of my life, is I want to be able to get back to the part where I can be my own boss. And if that either's on me working alone, doing freelance stuff, and I can make that money, then doing that, then I will do that. If it means that I need to create a company and I'm just kind of my own boss in the sense of, it's my company, I might do that. Because, and that depends what type of opportunities. I was watching video the other night on Coding Phases channel, and Joe was talking about he was giving an analogy of basically this being like basketball. He's not trying to get out here and tell everyone, if you practice every day, you're gonna make it into the NBA, and or as a developer, if you practice code every day, you're gonna create the next big social media platform or whatever like that. That doesn't mean that you can't practice every day and make as much money as people do this working for a company somewhere, because you can. And he's absolutely right in that. But the thing that he said that kind of stuck out with me, and that, it just kind of falls into my personal philosophy as well, is that he said, that's something that fate or destiny or the universe is going to be like, that's your time, and sprinkle the sauce on you and stuff. But, and that's true. If I put in the work and stuff, and, the universe or God or whoever, whatever it is that you personally believe, is going to put that blessing on you and give you that, then I'll go that route and have that company. But regardless of how I get to working for myself. That's what I really want to do. And I guess the main reason I want to work for myself, and if I say that I might make a company with some people, I'm not necessarily thinking I'm trying to build this gigantic empire and have like a Forbes 500 company. I mean, that would be nice, but I see it as being like just a smaller company where, it's just so we all can basically push out more products to more people because we have a few of us working together, and the few of us working together knows what we're doing. Because my purpose of wanting to work for myself is I want to get to a point in my life where I can do my work quick enough and fast enough that I can make more money in a less amount of time, so I can have my time freed up to live life and do the things that I enjoy. Because there's going to be people out there that's on like Fiverr and Upwork and stuff, and they get consistent amount of works, and they're selling like a 5-page website for between like $500 and $1,000, and it probably takes them like 4 hours to get that knocked out because they probably have a lot of the stuff already pre-made from where they made it before. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. That's working smarter, not harder. And big ups to all those people that's out there doing that, and they're making their money like that. And so you're like, hey, I can make $500 for 3 hours of work, and then I can do that like all week long and just have a couple of grand. I mean, my last couple of jobs was making like $500 every 2 weeks on a paycheck after taxes and stuff. So to be able to say I can do 2 weeks worth of work in 4, 5, 6, 8 hours and get paid for that, then imagine what I could do in that free time. I could travel. I could go see the world. I could spend time with my daughter. I could, heck, if I wanted to, I could probably homeschool her. And then, I would have the time to take her out so she could learn, like, science stuff, learning biologies and about animals and stuff. I can take her out to, like, the woods, learning about like fish and stuff. I can take her fishing or out to aquariums, and I can do all this stuff. And I personally believe that there's a better way to learn things than sitting in a classroom, and that's by experiencing them hands-on. And those are experiences I would get to have with my daughter, and seeing her grow up. That's what I want out of my life. I want to have those intimate connections with the people that matter most to me in my life, and I want the time to enjoy doing that. I want the time to spend with my wife and to take her places and go on the honeymoon we never went on. That's what I want. And to do things like that, you got to have time, but you also got to have money to finance that. And then sometimes, as human beings, our time is not valued the way it should be. So you got to find a way to get out there and make as much as you can for as little time as possible. And that doesn't mean that you compromise your quality of work, or you compromise the quality of the services that you give, because you don't. You put in 110% into everything that you do, and you always try to make whoever that you're providing something for as if you've went above and beyond for them, because that's the type of work ethic that people need, and that's the type of work ethic that's going to get you repeat customers and back. When you were doing your work for your customers and your clients, you need to make them feel like in that moment when you're doing your work that they are all that matters to you. And that's the way it should be. If I was hiring someone to do any type of work, that's how I'd want them to do that work for me. If I'm paying for someone to come out work on my house, reshingle my roof, I want someone to feel that, you know what, they did the best quality of work that they could have, because when they step back and they look at it, they want to be like, you know what, yes, this was reshingling a roof or whatever, but when I do it, it's art. And that's what we are when we do web development and we're designing pages and doing stuff. We're artists. You know, if you can spend an extra 30 seconds and make something look twice as beautiful, spend that 30 seconds to make it look twice as beautiful for these, because all these websites that you'll be creating, putting out all over the website, these are these little pieces of real estate that have your name on it. They're representations of you and what you stand for. And so do you want people to look at the things that you've created and be like, you stand for crap? Or do you want them to look back and say, this person stands for awesomeness? And that's kind of where it is. And this video is getting to be about 45 minutes long, so I'm just going to leave it here at that. And that's kind of where I'm going through, and that's a little bit of my roadmap and kind of how I got to where I am now, and a little bit of pieces of information and advice and just kind of stuff that I've learned that at least applies to me. You know, everything that I've said in this video may not apply to you because everyone's different, but you know, a lot of people oftentimes get in similar situations. So if my advice or my little rants does help to save you time in the long run, even though this is a 40-some minute video, but in the long run, if it does help you to save time from going through the same mistakes someone else has already went through, then, you know, that's awesome. And ultimately, that's something you need to learn to do, whether you're a web developer or not. You need to make sure that you learn, gain, or acquire the skill somehow to where you can look at other people's mistakes and you learn from them to where you don't make those same mistakes and waste your time, because that's just that much faster you can get to where you're going. And the faster you can get to where you're going, the faster you can get ahead in that area, and the faster you can get, because we all have only so much time in life and then it's gone. So, you know, invest your time wisely. I'm trying to invest my time wisely now by putting all that I have back into becoming a web developer. That way I can free up my time kind of on the back end, and I will have that time to go and spend how I please in doing the things that I enjoy. And hopefully, you know, web development makes you happy, and it's going to put you on a path to where you can do the things that make you happy as well. And with that said, I just want to, you know, wish you guys a great day. And if you haven't liked this video or any of my other videos or subscribe, please do so now. The button's right below. And go ahead, check out some of my other videos and leave a comment. Tell me if you want to see a couple of the projects that I've been working on. I can show you a little bit of what I'm doing, make a quick video, or to show me or tell me in the comments of something that you want me to talk about. What I really want to do is make some videos in the next couple weeks, because I know that there's going to be some stuff that I'm struggling with, and I want to make videos about what I am actively struggling on. That's not something I want to hide and pretend like everything's great. I want to, you know, I want people to see that, hey, this can be frustrating, but it can be rewarding. And just because you get to an area where you do get frustrated, that doesn't mean that you can't find the way to fix it and move on from there. I want my channel to be about the reality of becoming a web developer, and then from there we'll see where it goes. The last thing that I want to mention, and actually I'll save that for another video, and because that's something quick that I can do on a side note. So, you know, everyone else, just be blessed, have a great day, And if you want to, link and share any projects you're working on. If you want to link your portfolio site down there, I'll definitely check all the links and allow them to go on in the comments. Definitely feel free to advertise yourself down there, and I'll definitely check those out and see what they look like as well. And maybe we can all kind of help influence and inspire one another and the projects that we want to do going forward. So this is the development of a web developer. I hope that you guys are enjoying so far. Bye.